Revenge films.
My name is Kaori. My husband Yusuke and I just had our first child. It was obviously my first time raising a kid, so navigating the first few months was very difficult for me. And even though I was super tired from giving birth and wanted to focus on raising my daughter, there was one other thing that's been bothering me. That was my husband's circle of friends. My husband has always been an outgoing person, and he has a lot of female friends. He would always invite them to our place, and that was the case when I was pregnant too. He didn't care that I was going through labor pains. He would always just push me aside to create room for him and his friends. And that made me worry about our future together. I once told him that I wanted him to stop inviting people to our place because my morning sickness was getting worse by the day, but my husband refused. He said that I could just stay in bed the entire time and that I shouldn't be complaining about this. But anyway, a couple of days after I gave birth to our daughter, something happened that made me more distrustful of my husband. When I was feeding my daughter some milk on my hospital bed, my husband came into the room with one of his female friends who was carrying a camera. I immediately closed the curtain and told them that they had to wait until I was done feeding the baby. And so, I made them wait for a couple of minutes. But after I was done, they slammed the curtain open and put the camera right in my face. They didn't seem to care that I was already exhausted, but that's when my husband said something unbelievable to me.
Why the hell do you look so tired, huh? Why can't you put on a smile while Hitomi's recording? Is that too much to ask for?
Come on, Yosuke. You should join in. I'll record all three of you together.
Thanks, Hitomi. Oh yeah, do you want me to hold the camera for you? You can try holding the baby if you want.
Oh, wait. Please don't do that. She's only 2 days old. I don't think anyone outside of our family should hold her right now.
Oh, come on. Don't be like that. It's not a big deal.
Yes, it is. Please don't do this.
Well, looks like someone's pissed off. I guess she's just stressed out from having given birth. She shouldn't be taking it out on other people, though. Whatever. I think I'm gonna go home for today.
Sorry, she doesn't seem to be handling the stress too well, but I'll make sure to text you later. See ya!
I couldn't believe that my husband would invite one of his female friends to come and see me and our daughter 2 days after I had given birth. And so, after Hitomi left the room, I told my husband this. Please don't invite any of your friends here anymore. Can't you see that I'm exhausted? I'm not robust enough to handle this right now.
Hey, calm down. Why do you sound so annoyed? Again, this isn't that big of a deal.
It is, all right? You're so insensitive. You're pissing me off.
Okay, I got it. I'm sorry, all right?
I could tell that my husband wasn't really moved by my words. He still thought that I was just being sensitive because I had just given birth, and he wouldn't even listen to me properly. And after I got out of the hospital, I spent some time thinking about whether or not I had a future with Yusuke. And that's when I realized that I didn't really love him anymore. But we just had our first baby, so it's not like I could get a divorce with him right away. I was thinking about what I should do when my husband did this. The day after I got out of the hospital, he invited 4 of his female friends to our place and hosted a dinner party without my permission.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Welcome! Come on in, make yourself at home.
We brought drinks with us. We're obviously pulling an all-nighter tonight, right?
I was so mad at my husband that I was about to cry. But I tried my best to hold back my tears and not show any weakness. And while I took care of my daughter, my husband and his friends spent the entire night drinking and partying. They were making so much noise that my daughter couldn't even go to sleep. She just cried the entire night, and I didn't even know what to do. I had no choice but to hold her in my arms to try to calm her down. But that's when one of my husband's friends, Yuki, came into my room. Is everything all right? How are you feeling? What? I've noticed that Yusuke has been acting way too selfishly the last couple of months, and I've been really worried about you and your daughter. I came here today to check in on you guys. According to Yuki, Yusuke has been bitching about me in a group chat that he's in with all of his female friends. He's been talking about how pissy I've been recently, and how that's been getting on his nerves. She also told me that she doesn't really like any of my husband's female friends because she feels that they're too close to him, even though he's already married. She's feeling particularly uneasy about my husband's relationship with Hitomi. I'm sure you've been pushing yourself very hard the last couple of months. And when Yuki said that to me, tears started flowing from my eyes. All of the emotions that I had tried to suppress within me came out at once. Yuki then told me that she was going to talk to my husband about this to make him change his behavior. So I decided to go downstairs and join in on this conversation. But when I opened the living room door, I saw my husband and Hitomi passionately kissing. They seemed like they were super drunk, but that wasn't an excuse. My husband had betrayed me right in front of my eyes, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. When Yuki saw the two kissing, she immediately pulled out her phone and took a few photos as evidence. That's when my husband realized that we were in the room with them. He looked over at us and grinned innocently. Is this guy being for real right now? Does he understand what he has just done? Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? You know what? That's it. You two need to leave.
Hold on. This isn't what it looks like.
God, stop being so pissy.
You guys are the worst. How could you do this to Kaori? I said, leave. I ran over to the hallway, grabbed their stuff, and threw it out the front door. I then kicked my husband and his friends out of the house. I finally had some peace and quiet in my home. After a couple of minutes, my rage subsided and sadness took over. When I fell down to my knees and started crying, Yuki stayed by my side and offered to take care of my daughter for me while I rested. I can't thank her enough for being there for me in my toughest hours. And the next day, I called my parents and asked them to come and pick me up. When they arrived, I grabbed my things and my daughter and left the house that I used to call home. When I explained the situation to my parents, they were absolutely furious. They told me that I should get a divorce with my husband and seek compensation from him. But I didn't have the energy to go through a lengthy trial at that time, so I decided to stay put at my parents' place while I rested my body and soul. But while I was away, my husband texted and called me almost every day. My husband barely seemed to show any remorse and insisted that he didn't remember anything because he was drunk. He demanded that I come home with my daughter immediately, so I told him that I was going to file for divorce. When he heard that, he immediately scoffed and told me that I shouldn't be seeking for divorce over this. But I completely ignored him and mailed him the divorce documents. The next day, Yuki called me for the first time in a couple of weeks. We exchanged numbers when we met at the house party, but we were both very busy and hadn't reached out to each other yet. Hello? Hey Kaori, it's Yuki. How are you doing? I'm doing better, thanks. I'm sorry I couldn't call you. I've been really busy taking care of my daughter, so... It's alright, but I actually had something I wanted to talk to you about today. It's about Yosuke. Huh? Did something happen? Well, apparently, my husband told everyone in the group chat about how I had left the house with my daughter. His friends immediately rushed to his support and told him that he had done nothing wrong and that I should apologize to him. Kaori, are you really going to get a divorce with Yosuke? Yeah, that's the plan right now. Alright, then let me help you. And so, Yuki was kind enough to connect me with a lawyer. She even gave him a printed version of the picture she took of my husband kissing Hitomi at the dinner party. Thanks to that, my husband's affair was quickly acknowledged, and the discussion proceeded smoothly. Yuki also sent the same photos to the group chat right before leaving it. When my husband's two other friends saw the photos, they couldn't believe how close Hitomi and my husband were. That creeped them out, and they started to distance themselves from the two. Oh, and I also sent the photos to my husband's parents and told them that I was planning on getting a divorce with him. After that, my in-laws brought him over to my parents' place and made him get down on his knees and apologize to me. But that's when I told him all about what he had done to me while we were married. Perhaps realizing that repairing the relationship was no longer possible, my in-laws took my husband and went home. But even after that incident, my husband kept on demanding me to come home. He also told me that I was the only one he had left because all of his friends had abandoned him, but I told him to talk to my lawyer instead and blocked his number. I then took Hitomi and my husband to court. I wanted them to compensate me for cheating on me, and I got exactly what I wanted and more. Oh yeah, and thanks to my furious in-laws instructing my husband to pay the child support in a lump sum, I received a substantial amount of money that allowed me to focus on raising my daughter without working for a while. And after his parents and other friends cut ties with him, Yusuke started depending on Hitomi even more than he already was. But Hitomi thought that Yusuke was the reason she had to compensate me for their affair, so she left him like everyone else in his life. According to Yuki, Hitomi had another boyfriend she was going out with, but she ended up getting dumped by him because she had a close relationship with Yusuke. Apparently, Yusuke is now finally regretting mistreating me. But it's too late for that now. He lost everything he had in life, and all he can do now is dream about what-ifs all day. Yuki and I became close friends after that, and we've been hanging out quite a lot recently. she's the reason I was able to get a divorce with my husband and receive compensation from him. So I want to make sure I repay her for everything she's done for me one day. This is a story about how my husband mistakenly sent me a voice message that was supposed to be sent to a secret lover. So I moved out of the house and left him. I met my husband a few years ago through a friend. We hit it off right away on the first day, so we started dating. I just turned 30 during that time, and I was thinking of getting married soon. So I told him that I would agree to get into a relationship with him, only if it's with the premise of a marriage. He graciously agreed to my request. Then 8 months after we started dating, he finally proposed to me. I wanted to have kids since we got married, but since I enjoyed my job so much, working in a rewarding professional environment, I was contemplating whether I wanted children soon or not. My husband assured me that he wasn't rushing on having children, so I focused on my job and worked hard every day. Thanks to that, I think my income is pretty high compared to others. Even though I earn more than my husband does, he never felt insecure about his salary. He was genuinely supportive of my work, so I was very thankful for that. On major holidays, my husband and I went on vacations, and even though we're not planning to have a baby yet, we always fulfilled each other physically as well as emotionally. The people around me said that I was lucky for marrying a good husband. I also thought the same as them. However, one day, I found a reservation for a particular inn on the history page of the laptop that my husband and I used together. At first, I thought that he booked that in to surprise me with a special trip. But when I checked the date, it wasn't my day off from work, and we usually only go on vacations during major holidays when we both don't have to go to work. And that is why I thought that something fishy was going on. Despite my worry because of my suspicion, I made sure I remembered the date of the reservation. Then, my husband told me that he was going on a business trip on the same day as he reserved the date of the inn. I wasn't 100% sure yet, but I thought that my husband was cheating on me. I thought of grilling him with questions, but I remembered that my cousin followed her husband to his job in a new city, so she is currently living in the city where my husband reserved the inn. The moment I realized that she was in the same city as where my husband was headed to, I immediately called my cousin to help me. I then honestly told my cousin that my husband might be cheating on me. This is not a time to worry about looking good in front of my extended family. I asked her to investigate my husband if she happened to be near where he was staying. My cousin then graciously agreed to my request. Actually, when my cousin was trying to enroll in college, she had poor grades in school. I was worried whether she would be able to get in or not. So as her cousin, who is 2 years older than her, I tutored my cousin for free. So she was able to get into her dream college because of that. Thanking me again for helping her out when she needed help, she willingly accepted my request to give back a favor. My cousin is a full-time housewife, and she and her husband don't have children yet, so she had plenty of time to spare. That is why she readily got into the investigation. And, like a detective, she asked for more details and pictures of my husband. I could have called my husband's company and asked whether he was on a business trip, but I had a feeling that he wasn't on a business trip. Also, if he really is not on a business trip and the company calls him, my husband would immediately know that I know that he's having an affair. As a result, there is a possibility that he will get rid of every piece of evidence, and that is why I decided not to ask his company instead. The inn that my husband reserved is apparently just 15 minutes away from where my cousin is currently living, so she investigated the place together with her friend. A few hours after I asked my friend to spy on my husband, I received several photos on my phone. The photos show that my worries were true. Just as I thought, my husband was having an affair with another woman. My cousin and her friend took pictures of my husband and his secret lover, walking into the hotel while holding hands together. Now that I have all the pieces of evidence that I need, I immediately hired a lawyer and showed the pictures to her. But despite seeing all those pictures, I still couldn't believe that my husband really cheated on me. Even when I was looking at the pictures, there was still a part of me deep inside hoping that this was all just a dream. However, something happened that blew my thoughts away in an instant. My husband had no idea that I am undercover and hired a lawyer. He came home as if nothing happened on his business trip, filled with lies.
Phew! I'm so exhausted. I had an unpleasant client on my business trip.
That huge liar started talking to me. I responded agreeably, pretending to listen to what he was saying. But my mind wasn't in the present, it was elsewhere. I was thinking about how I'm going to deal with my cheating husband and about what I'm going to do from now on. 2 days later, while I was contemplating how to go about things, I received a voice message from my husband, which was addressed to a different person. That day, I was meeting a client in a cafe, and I stayed at a business hotel for the night. My husband stayed at home alone, but after I finished work and headed home, I noticed that I received a voice message from my husband. Not thinking much about it, I listened to the message nonchalantly. However, what I heard was a very shocking statement. I heard my husband's drunken voice, and he uttered something very shocking.
I had so much fun during our trip last time. I want to see you again. I'm not interested in my wife at all, you know. But in order for me to go on vacations with you, I need my wife's earnings, so I married her. It's like I'm servicing her, so she's nothing compared to you.
My husband blabbered about his affair and how he was just using me for money. I was filled with rage and ended up throwing my phone to my bed. Even though my cousin showed me the pictures that she had taken, and she had pieces of evidence of my husband's affair, I was still hoping that it was all just a mistake and he's not really having an affair. But when I heard those words from my husband, and he even mentioned that what we did last night was just a service from him, my love for my husband was shattered and slowly faded away. After hearing all that, I immediately researched about the woman whom my husband mentioned while he drunkenly sent me a message. That's when I found out that she was an employee at my husband's office, and she works as a clerk. I have all the evidence that I need, so first and foremost, asked my lawyer to send a message to my husband's boss, stating that my husband and one of their staff are having an affair. I asked my lawyer to send the pieces of evidence, as well as the certification of contents to his workplace along with the message. I also asked my lawyer to send the same message and pieces of evidence to my parents-in-law, informing them of their son's affair. Also, since I didn't want to live together with my husband a second longer, so at the same time, I brought all of my belongings with me and I moved out of the house. My husband didn't have any savings when we moved in together, so I bought all the furniture and appliances in the house. I secretly took them away with me because they were mine in the first place. When my husband arrived home, he noticed that the house was empty and he bombarded me with calls, but I've had enough of him, so I ignored all his calls. He then sent me messages about asking me to go back to him after he got fired from his job and realized that the things in the house were gone. I thought of ignoring all the calls from my husband forever, but since I needed him to sign the divorce papers, I went back home just for that. When I stepped into the house, he shouted,
What have you done to this place? It's empty! Where's all my stuff? You even sent my boss a certification on coordinates! Do you have any idea what kind of trouble I went through?
Yeah, I am very aware of it. But you know what will happen if you cheat on me.
I didn't cheat on you! More importantly, I was fired from my job because of what you did! Pay me alimony for what you've done! If I didn't get fired from my job, I would have been promoted and got a raise!
What nonsense! Stop joking around. Also, I have all the evidence that I need because I asked my cousin to investigate and she caught you in the act. Also, you told me that you cheated on me.
Huh? What are you saying? There's no way I said such a thing!
It seems like my husband didn't notice that he mistakenly left me a drunk voice message. He didn't realize what he did, so I put the volume to the max and made him listen to his own message. He went paler and paler.
What? Why do you have that?
Why do I have this message? Well, clearly you don't remember, do you? That you called me on my phone and left me a drunken message. You thought that you were calling your secret lover, but you actually called me. My husband probably remembered doing that because he covered his mouth with his hands. You understand now why I'm very angry and upset, don't you? We're getting a divorce, so you don't have the right to complain about me taking out all of the things that I bought with me. I already informed your parents about what you did, so how about you go back to your parents' house? The condominium belongs to me, and I will cancel this condo by next year.
What? Wait a second! You also said to my parents what you said to your boss?
Yes, of course I did. We're getting divorced, so I need to at least give them an explanation of the reason why. When I said that, my husband collapsed to the floor and he looked like he was at his wit's end. Actually, my husband's parents-in-law are very scary people, and both my grandparents hate cheaters the most in this world. They will scold him a lot if he gets a divorce, but when they learn that his affair is the reason for the divorce, he probably imagined what punishment awaited him. However, that is not my problem anymore. So I shoved the official divorce registration form to my husband. Hurry up and sign this paper or else. He then started to kneel on the floor and bow down his head to me. He probably thinks that I will forgive him if he does that.
I just happened to say those words because I was drunk. Believe me, I didn't cheat on you. You're the only one that I love, so please don't divorce me.
You've got to be kidding me. You said that you were just servicing me, so I don't want to be your wife anymore. Well, if you refuse to sign it, I will ask my lawyer to make you sign the paper. Or if you don't want to sign it, I'll just take it to your parents. There are many ways for me to make you sign this paper. So don't waste both our time and energy. Just sign the freaking paper. After I said those words, he immediately signed the papers. After my husband reluctantly signed the paper, he was apparently called to his parents' house, and I heard that he was beaten by his father, who does martial arts. Rumors say that his family cut ties with him. As for his secret lover, she was also fired from their company, and her parents kicked her out of their lives when they learned of their daughter's adultery. She is now working at night in a job that she doesn't like because she has to pay for the alimony that she owes me. I don't know, and I don't care how he is going to pay for the alimony that he owes me, now that he lost his job and his house. I never thought that such a kind person would cheat on me, but the moment I heard my drunken husband's slurred words to another woman, all the love I had left for my husband all faded away like we never had a history together. I know that I'm bitter about what he did to me, but since he got into this affair for fun, I strongly think that he should regret it for the rest of his life. Thank you so much for watching. What did you think of this video? If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. My name is Natsuki. I'm currently living with my husband Keisuke and his family. My husband's family owns their own business, and Keisuke's father is the CEO of their own company. Things were going well when Keisuke's grandfather was at the helm, but things started to go downhill once his son took over. Their sales numbers plummeted, and it got very difficult for them to make ends meet. The reason the business declined under my father-in-law was because of his selfish and arrogant personality, as well as his habit of wasting the company's money. I started working at his company recently alongside my husband, but my father-in-law always follows me around and nitpicks everything I do. He always blamed me for the company's declining sales numbers, and even though Keisuke has told him to stop many times, he never listens. So that's why it's been very stressful for me to go to work recently. But I'm still new at the workplace, so I was trying my best to hang in there and withstand the abuse. But after 3 months went by, I got tired of being told that I was useless and incompetent every day. So, to a friend of mine who was in the same industry as I was, I asked her for advice and guidance. I also bought books and other helpful material to learn more about the industry I was in. And I also did a lot of research online. I also took the CPA exam to become a qualified accountant and managed to pass after multiple tries. I worked day and night every day and did my best to get all the chores around the house done in the few remaining hours that I had. But apparently, my father-in-law wasn't really fond of the fact that I was becoming better at my job. I could tell that that was the case because he didn't stop picking on me even after I started producing better results at work. But that didn't really bother me though, because I was confident in my skills and knowledge. But one day, things got very heated between us when my father-in-law called me a waste of space. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
God, how many times do I have to tell you that that's not how you're supposed to do it? You're such a slow learner. You know what? Why don't you quit? You're just a waste of space at this point.
What did you just call me? And tell me where I made a mistake. Come on, explain it to me right now. I guess he didn't expect me to talk back to him because he was clearly surprised by what I said. And so, after that day, he stopped bugging me during work. I was able to work more freely and comfortably now, and I am so glad that I stood up for myself. And so, time quickly went by without much changing. Now, it's been 5 years since my husband and I got married, and he's apparently going to be taking over his family's business from his father soon. And on the day that Keisuke officially became the CEO, I went up to his office and told him about a plan that I had been working on. Hey, I need to talk to you about your father.
What about him?
Now that you're the CEO, I think you should fire him.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. But if I do fire my father, you're gonna have to work extra hours for a couple of months before we can find his replacement. Is that okay with you?
Yeah, I'll be fine. So please, fire him as soon as you can.
Alrighty, will do.
And so, Keizuki immediately fired his father on the day that he became the CEO. But my father-in-law was obviously upset with how he was being treated, and said this to my husband when Keisuke told him that he was being fired.
You're firing me? You're kidding me, right? Do you know how hard I've worked for this company? You can't fire me. You need me to survive.
Well, if you really want to keep on working here, then you can, but we're not going to pay you anymore. And when I told my father-in-law that, he was at a loss for words. He couldn't say anything back to us and left the office in shame. And for the next 3 years, my husband and I worked together at the company. Because we were short-staffed, things were extremely busy for the first couple of years. But eventually, we were able to restore the company to its former glory. We were able to hire a bunch of new employees, and the amount of work we had to do by ourselves decreased significantly. My father-in-law was disliked by everyone in the industry. And so, now that he doesn't have a job at our company anymore, he's spending his days alone, wondering where he went wrong. He became an alcoholic shortly after getting fired by my husband, and that's why his family is trying their best to keep a safe distance from him. They've been really supportive of us though, and not only do they help out with the chores around the house, they've also given us great advice when it comes to running our company. And because my father-in-law doesn't know how to do any of the chores around the house, he just sits and drinks on the sofa all day. None of us cared to talk to him though, because we all hated him. But that's when he started to become very abusive towards our family. I guess he was feeling very stressed out by his boring life, and he started taking his anger and frustrations out on us. One day, when I was eating dinner at a dining table with my husband, he came up to us and said this.
Why the hell are you making my wife cook for you guys? Make your own food, you assholes.
And he said this to us almost every day. We couldn't believe the way he was talking to us, but we were too lazy to argue against him. But a couple of days later, my father-in-law had a cerebral infraction and was transported to the hospital while my husband and I were at work. We rushed over to the hospital where the doctor told us that he was going to live. He was going to have a few after effects though. And so, after my husband drove back to the office, I visited my father-in-law while he was sleeping on his hospital bed. Hey, how are you feeling, sir? Are you all right?
What took you so long, huh? I've been waiting for you guys to come here for hours.
Well, we were at work, and we came here as soon as we got the call from the hospital.
Excuses, excuses. You always make excuses for yourself, don't you? It's embarrassing, really. But anyway, you sure you can take care of me from now on?
His attitude was pissing me off, so I took a page out of his book and said this to him. Why are you trying to make me take care of you? You should be taking care of yourself. And when I said that, he seemed to be taken aback. Honestly, I don't care if you're sick. You better figure out a way to put yourself in a retirement home because I am definitely not going to take care of you. Now, goodbye. And when I told my family about the conversation I had with my father-in-law at the hospital, they all seemed shocked.
I don't want to look after him every day. That's going to be a huge pain in the ass.
Yeah, I agree.
My father-in-law stayed at the hospital for a couple of weeks, but no one visited him again. And once he got home after getting out of the hospital, he started yelling at us at the top of his lungs.
Why the hell did none of you come to visit me? You think you can just neglect me like that? You all need to apologize to me right now.
You're kidding me, right? You almost bankrupted our family's business and now you're acting like we should care about what you have to say? Give me a break.
You can't talk to me like that. I'm your father, and my left hand is paralyzed now, so you guys are gonna have to take care of me from now on.
What a joke. No one is gonna look after you, Dad.
What?
If you want someone to take care of you, then you should admit yourself into a retirement home or something.
Whoa, wait, are you guys being for real right now?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, you have to be joking. I'm never going to admit myself into a retirement home.
And so, After having a huge fight with his wife, my father-in-law eventually gave in and used the money in his savings account to move into a retirement home. But that's when he started acting like a completely different person. He helped us out with the chores around the house and stopped being nasty to us. But we weren't going to change your mind that easily. We still refused to take care of him, and when he moved out of our house, all of our lives became infinitely more comfortable and relaxing. It didn't take long for the people in the retirement home to start hating my father-in-law, and apparently, he now spends most of his days watching TV in his room. I guess he's been feeling lonely lately because he's been calling me a lot these past few weeks. But he always ends up verbally abusing me, so I stopped answering them. My mother-in-law visited him at the retirement home the other day, but apparently he looked so depressed and defeated that it almost felt like she was talking to a complete stranger. But she knew that he brought this all on himself, so she didn't feel bad for him at all. And neither did we. We're going to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes that my father-in-law did. We're going to stay humble and work hard every day to grow our business. And thanks to my husband's leadership skills, our company has been doing very well the last couple of years. We've hired even more employees, and now our workload is even more manageable than before. We've been making so much money recently that we've been able to take our entire family out to trips around the world every year. And after my father-in-law moved out of our house, we were able to restore the peace and quiet we once had in our house. My husband and I have been able to strengthen our bond by working together as well.
My name is Kazuya, and I run a small construction company in the city. Our business is quite small, but all of the employees know each other, and we treat each other like family. And running my business isn't an easy task, but it's still fulfilling, and I have a lot of fun doing it. But there is one thing that's been bothering me, though. One of our clients got a new representative, and he's quite the character. The previous company representative for our client was a very kind man, and I had a lot of fun doing business with him. But apparently, he had to be replaced because he became ill. And so we got this new representative called Kuzuo, and unfortunately for us, he's very selfish, arrogant, and rude. But his company was one of our largest clients, so we couldn't really say no to anything he said. He made us prepare expensive snacks and drinks for him, and whenever he stopped by at our company, he started to act like he was a king and was entitled to anything and everything. He also spoke very rudely to our employees, and one day his attitude got too much to handle for me. And so I said this to him: "You cannot speak to our employees like that. They're like family to me, and I will not let you boss them around." But I guess that wasn't intimidating enough for him, because he replied to me with this.
Oh, you think you could talk to me like that? Do you even understand who you're speaking to right now? You're sure you want to yell at me?
Kazuo grinned as he said that, and he had a point. If I upset him, he could cut ties with our company, and we'd go under in an instant. I wanted to beat the crap out of him, but I knew I had to put the interests of the company and our employees before my own feelings. And so to protect our employees, I did my best to hold myself back and contain my anger. I might be a CEO, but we're still a very small company. We're only here because this one man was willing to help us out financially. And if this asshole decided to stop doing business with us, that could be the nail in the coffin for us. And Kazuo knew all that, as well as the fact that I couldn't afford to upset him. And so he kept on taking advantage of his position, and his behavior got even worse. Whenever he was in a bad mood, he'd come over to our office and yell at our employees to ease his stress.
Why the hell did you leave this on the ground, you idiot? What were you thinking? Start over. You guys are a bunch of useless nut jobs, aren't you?
He kept on abusing his status and wreaked havoc onto our employees. I was getting tired of just sitting there and watching him have his way, so I said this to him: "You have to stop! Our employees have been working very hard on this project, and you just destroyed it for no reason. Now we might not be able to meet our deadline thanks to you."
Shut up! That isn't my fault, you bastard! It's your fault that your employees are so incompetent! And if you can't meet our deadline, then that just means that we're gonna have to cut ties with your company! Honestly, I'd prefer it if that happened!
Well, you're trying to screw us over right now, aren't you? Could you please stop getting in our way?
Shut up! You guys don't even know what you're doing, so you should be listening to me, you incompetent bastards!
And just like that, Kuzuo laughed in our face. That's when I heard someone say,
What are you doing to my friend?
When I looked over to where the voice came from, I saw an old friend of mine standing there. It was Hiroto. And as soon as Kuzuo saw Hiroto's face, he started freaking out and asked him this.
What? What is going on? Why are you here?
Well, because my friend owns this company. I come here occasionally to see how the company's doing. But anyway, what were you doing just now? Did I see you knocking over something that the employees of this company have been working tirelessly to create? And you said that you were gonna cut ties with them, but are you the representative of your company?
When Hiroto asked him that question, Kazuo mumbled yes as an answer. He probably didn't think that Hiroto would be here because his face had turned pale. Little did he know that Hiroto, who's the son of the current CEO of Kuzuo's company, was a good friend of mine. We've known each other since we were kids, and our parents are friends with each other too. Hiroto supported me financially when I first started this company, and he's the reason our business is still standing today. He hasn't been able to track our progress as closely as he used to because he's so busy with his own job right now, but he's still an avid supporter of our business. And so, Hiroto stared Kuzuo down and said this.
Who do you think you are? You don't have the authority to decide whether or not to cut ties with our clients?
I'm really sorry, sir.
And what happened to the previous representative? He's a much better representative for our company than you.
Well, I replaced him in this role because he fell ill. He's in the hospital right now.
Whatever. I'm going to be looking into your actions when I get back to the office, so you better brace yourself.
But that's when Kuzuo turned to me and said this.
I am so sorry, sir. Please forgive me. I'll never do something like this again.
He got down on the ground to apologize to me and then ran out of the office in a hurry. And after he was gone, Hiroto turned to me and said,
Why didn't you tell me about him, huh? I didn't know that asshole was representing our company.
Well, I couldn't. I knew you were super busy, so I didn't want to bother you, you know?
But we're friends, aren't we? You should talk to me about these things.
I'm sorry, but I still didn't want to burden you with this. And I felt kind of embarrassed to go up to you and ask for your help.
Oh, don't be stupid. I would never look down on you just because you ask me for help. But anyway, I'm going to look into this matter closely when I get back, and I'll obviously appoint a different employee for this role. I'm very sorry about what happened. It's our fault for hiring someone like him.
And after he said that, he not only apologized to me, but went around the office apologizing to everyone that was affected by Kuzuo's selfish behavior. He might be the son of a CEO, but he's still a very caring and kind man that's willing to support a small business. We all loved and respected Hiroto, so one of our employees said this to him. Please don't apologize. This isn't your fault, sir.
Yeah, he's right.
They all knew that Hiroto and I were good friends. That's why most of them were close with him and knew Hiroto on a first-name basis. I guess they felt awkward because they've never seen Hiroto apologizing to someone before and didn't want to see their friend like this. But then, Hiroto told us that he was going to go and get something for us to show how sorry he was about this situation. When he came back, he had a bunch of barbecue lunch boxes with him. Hiroto always gets us gifts like this, and that's part of why we love him so much at our company. And when he got back to his office, he looked into Kuzuo's past behavior just like he told us he would. That's when he found out that this wasn't the first time he's tried to take advantage of his position. He's been extorting small businesses like ours to get favorable deals for his company. He's also made CEOs of smaller companies take him out to expensive dinners by threatening to stop doing business with them if they didn't oblige. And none of them could turn him down because they all knew that he held their fate in his hands. What a terrible human being! He was taking advantage of his position to benefit himself and himself only. He was also trying to cut ties with our company so that he could establish a business partnership with one of our competitors. Apparently, he was getting paid to sabotage our relationship. And so after finding all this out, Hiroto immediately called his father and advised him to fire Kuzuo. And once the CEO learned about what he had done, he called Kazuo to his office and gave him a good scolding. And now all of his victims are preparing to start a class action lawsuit against him. We're obviously going to join in as well. And apparently, Hiroto is allowing us to use his company's legal advisor for the court case. And now, with powerful allies by our side, we're taking Kazuo to court and making him pay for his selfish behavior. He didn't stand a chance in the legal battle because we had an insane squad supporting us, and he seemed lost when the guilty verdict was given out. And now that we have a new representative, we're able to focus on our work without having to worry about getting harassed by Kazuo. And now that he's lost everything, Kazuo is fighting to survive every day in his impoverished apartment room. I'm currently living with my wife and our 12-year-old daughter. I thought our family dynamic was healthy and that we all got along with one another. But one day, my wife and daughter started to give me a cold shoulder. I've been working really hard for my family and to put food on the table. But when I get home every day, they look at me and say this.
Mom, Dad's already home.
And then my wife says this to me.
I didn't make dinner for you because I thought you were gonna eat out tonight. There's some rice in the fridge, so why don't you eat that?
What? But I never said that I was gonna eat out tonight. Why did you think that I was gonna come home late?
I don't know. I just did, all right?
You shouldn't have come home this early. And besides, you can't expect me to cook dinner for you every day.
They were acting like they didn't even want me here. The way they were treating me hurt me very badly. But I still loved my family very much, and I wanted to provide for them. I had to travel all over the country for my job, but I was able to get through all of it because I knew that I was the only one that could support my family. But whenever I tell my wife that I'm going on a business trip, she grins and celebrates. But when I get back home, she won't even look at me in the eye. And when she does look at me, she always has a look of disgust and resentment on her face. But one day, I was able to go home from work early because I got everything done quickly. But that's when I saw my wife and daughter eating lunch at a restaurant with a man that I didn't recognize. I couldn't believe my eyes at first, but then everything started to make sense. So she's been cheating on me this whole time, huh? That's why she's been so cold to me lately. And so I went back home and waited for my family to come back. But it took hours for them to come home, and when they did return, this was the conversation that they were having.
Man, I had so much fun today, Mom. Where do you want to go next time?
They seemed like they just had the time of their lives. And when they noticed that I was waiting for them in the living room, they both seemed surprised.
I didn't know you were home.
Oh, well, I was having such an amazing day up until this point. But seeing your face just ruined everything for me.
Where were you guys, huh? I saw you eating lunch at a restaurant with a man I didn't recognize. Are you cheating on me? I cut to the chase and confronted her. But that's when she replied with this.
That's right. I am cheating on you. Unlike you, my boyfriend is very handsome, and I love spending time with him.
Yeah, he's nothing like you.
I couldn't believe my ears. I was shocked to find out that my wife was cheating on me. But what made everything worse for me was the fact that my own daughter didn't even like me. I felt like I was just pushed off a cliff. But they weren't done yet.
I was gonna get a divorce with you soon, so I didn't care if you found out about the affair or not.
I think you should get a divorce with him too, Mom. Kuzo is richer than Dad, and he always takes us out to the best restaurants. He also gives me a lot of presents, and I really like him.
I've been working my ass off for my family, and this is how they repay me? I can't believe that this is actually happening right now. How could they do this to me? And that's when my wife told me that I need to pack my bags and leave. When we moved into this apartment, we signed the lease under my wife's name because I was busy with work at the time. God, I shouldn't have done that. And now they're talking about where they're gonna go and what they're gonna eat with Kazuo next. They both seem excited to replace me with Kazuo. I just don't understand why they're doing this to me. Then, my wife told me that I had to pay for our daughter's child support even after we get a divorce. I guess she's been after my money this entire time, huh? I didn't have the energy to argue with her, so I handed her my debit card. When they realized that I was waving the white flag, they started celebrating together. I couldn't bear to be in the same room with them anymore, so I left the house in a hurry without grabbing any of my stuff. I didn't take anything with me because I knew that I wouldn't be needing anything. I had lost all hope, and there was only one thing that was left for me to do. And so I got in my car and drove to the mountains. When I arrived at the woods, I got out of my car and started walking around aimlessly. I didn't know where I was or which direction I was walking towards. I just knew that this was going to be the last day of my life. But that's when someone came up to me in the middle of the night and asked if I was okay. When I looked up, I saw a woman who looked like she was in her 30s, standing next to a small girl. Apparently, they came to the woods to look for some mushrooms. They got worried because they thought I was lost and decided to ask me if I needed any help. And when I saw their faces, all of the emotions that I had kept locked up inside me started to burst out. I started to explain my situation to them in tears and told them that I was planning on ending my life in these woods. They listened to my story quietly, and when I was done, they told me that I should follow them. They then took me to an apartment room that they said wasn't being used right now. Apparently, her brother used to live in this penthouse, and because he moved out recently, I was free to sleep here for as long as I wanted. I guess this is her way of trying to stop me from ending my own life. And after she showed me around the room, she went out to get some groceries for me at the local supermarket. When she got back, she cooked up a quick meal for me. She told me that her name was Manami and that her daughter was called Aiko. After we had dinner together, she went back home to her own place. But the next day she came back to the apartment to check on me. She had brought a bento box with her and told me that I could eat it for lunch. I felt bad for making her take care of me like this, but I didn't have my wallet or any of my cards with me, so I had no choice but to accept her handouts. And so from that day on, Aiko and Manami visited me every day to see how I was holding up. And thanks to them, I was holding myself together. One day I told Manami that I wanted to find a new job to support myself. She then told me that she could talk to her brother because he had his own business. A few days later, her brother came to visit me in his apartment. He handed me his business card and introduced himself to me. But that's when I found out that Manami's brother was the CEO of a massive firm. His business was very famous in this city, and I couldn't believe that he was the CEO there. And after I explained my situation to him, he told me that he was willing to hire me. He wanted to help me get back on my feet and told me that he would be happy to have me. And after that conversation, we went to the store together, and he bought me everything I needed. I told him that he didn't have to do this for me, but he smiled at me and said that he was doing this because he wanted to. And when I started working at his company, I did my best to become an elite employee as quickly as possible, because I knew I had to repay Manami and her brother for everything they've done for me. All of my coworkers were very supportive, and so far I have nothing but good things to say about my new job. But one day, when Manami and Aiko came to visit me in her brother's apartment, Aiko looked me in the eyes and asked me this question.
Hey, Manabu, you're in love with my mom, right?
I was surprised and didn't know what to say at first, but eventually I gave in and answered with this. Yeah, I really like her.
Then, can you be my new dad?
What?
Don't worry, my mom feels the same way about you.
And that gave me the confidence to ask Manami out. She immediately said yes, and we started dating right away. Manami's brother was happy when I told him the news, and because we got support from our families, Manami and I got married after 6 months of dating. And one day when Manami, her brother, Aiko, and I went to the shopping mall together, I ran into somebody completely unexpected. It was my wife, my daughter, and Kuzuo. After staring at me for a couple of seconds, my wife said this to me.
Well, well, well. Look who it is. I didn't think I'd run into you here.
Yeah, we were having a lot of fun shopping together as a family, but you being here ruined it for us.
I've heard about you before, but man, you just look like a loser, don't you?
I guess they haven't changed one bit, huh? And now my ex-wife's boyfriend is joining in on the fun. She knew that I quit my job after I moved out of our house, so she asked me how I've been able to survive for so long. And when I brought out my business card and handed it to her, her face turned pale.
What the hell? How'd you get a job at this company? You're supposed to be an incompetent loser.
Well, I got remarried, and my brother-in-law owns this company.
What? Your brother-in-law's the CEO?
And that was when Manami, her brother, and Aiko returned from the bathroom. Apparently, Kuzuo's company is one of our subcontractors. When my brother-in-law found that out, he said this.
I heard what you said, and I know what kind of person you are now. I don't want to do business with your company anymore, so I'm going to be cutting ties with you guys.
Wait, hold on. You can't do this to us?
Kuzuo's face turned blue, but Manami paid no attention to that and said,
Let's go. We shouldn't waste our time on these people.
She then held my hand and guided me away from the people that destroyed my life a year ago. When I looked back at them, they were all still standing there in awe. Apparently, my brother-in-law's company was Kuzuo's biggest contractor, and I heard from a friend that his business went under a few days later. Now, Kuzuo is in a ton of debt. It didn't take long for my ex-wife to leave him after that, and now she's trying to get back together with me.
Hey, honey, you and I should start over. I have a feeling we can make it work this time.
You're supposed to be my dad, right? You have to help us.
But I was having none of it. You guys are the ones that abandoned me. I'm not gonna get back together with you after what you've done to me. I bet they regret treating me like crap now. I don't have any feelings for them anymore. I don't care what happens to them. But I do care about my new family and the baby that we're going to have in a few months.
I love my sister, and I couldn't be more proud of her. I have been close with her since we were kids, and she's always had my back. She looks like our father, while I took after my mother. So we don't really look alike. And my sister has been bullied in the past because of the way she looks. People always compared us to each other, but my sister never became jealous or subservient. I've always thought that she was an amazing, selfless, and humble person. So I felt like she was way more attractive than me. And besides, I don't like it when men try to approach me just because I look pretty. But anyway, when my sister was 20 years old, she finally started dating her first boyfriend. He was 5 years older than her, and I had the chance to meet him early on in their relationship. When I went to the cafe to have coffee with them, I saw my sister, her boyfriend, and one of their friends sitting at a table together. To be honest with you, my sister's boyfriend, Kuzo, left a terrible first impression on me that day. Apparently, he would always make up random excuses and make my sister pay for everything when they went out on dates together. It almost seemed like Kuzo was using my sister as an ATM machine. But his friend, on the other hand, he seemed like a really nice person. His name was Shota, and when my sister went to the register to pay for everyone's drinks, he offered to pay instead. He was handsome, kind, and polite. Sure, he might not be super rich or anything, but I didn't notice a single bad thing about him that day. He was such a nice person that I left the cafe that day wondering why my sister wasn't dating Shota instead. But Kuzo was her first boyfriend, and I didn't want to ruin their relationship by telling her to break up with him. And a couple of days later, when I was out in the city with my friends, I saw Kuzo walking down the street while holding hands with a woman I didn't recognize. They sure seemed like they were in love with each other, and I thought about telling my sister about what I saw, but I didn't know if she was actually being cheated on. And more importantly, I didn't want to upset her. And so, I kept this information to myself for a while. But when I got home from work a couple of days later, I saw my sister crying in her room. When I asked her why she was crying, she told me that her boyfriend had cheated on her and called her ugly. I guess she was shocked by what happened because she became depressed after that incident. I was pissed off by the way Kuzo had treated her, so I immediately went to go and find him. And the next day, I found Kuzo sitting on the bench with the same woman that he was with the other day. They were flirting with each other, but I went straight up to him and asked him this. How dare you hurt my sister? Who do you think you are?
Huh? You're her sister, aren't you? Well, why does it matter to you? We're not dating anymore, so could you just leave me alone?
I can't believe you would cheat on my sister with this woman. My sister is way prettier than her. And don't you feel bad for hurting her feelings?
Well, the only reason I was dating her was because she was always willing to pay for my food. But I realized that she doesn't deserve me. She's too ugly, you know?
What did you just call my sister?
I called her ugly, all right? And you can't blame me for dating someone that's more attractive than her.
You're the worst person that I've ever met in my life. Karma is real, and you're going to regret this one day.
Yeah, well, I doubt that's ever gonna happen.
I couldn't believe what he was saying. I felt my blood boiling, but it wasn't like I could change his mind or anything. His mind had already been made up, and arguing with him was just a waste of time. And for a couple of weeks after that, my sister refused to come out of her room. My parents were getting worried about her, but that's when things started to change. After finding out about what happened between Kuzo and my sister, Shota called me and told me that he was worried about her. I could tell that he cared deeply about her, and I started to think that he was into her. And so, I decided to cut to the chase and asked him how he felt about my sister. And that's when he started to tell me everything about his relationship with and feelings towards my sister. He first found out about her when Kuzo bragged to him about how he had found someone that he could easily manipulate. From that alone, you can just tell that Kuzo never loved my sister to begin with. That's why Shota began to worry about my sister and her relationship with Kuzo. He decided to hang out with her more often to make sure that she wasn't being mistreated by her boyfriend. It was clear that Shota was a kind person that cared deeply about my sister's well-being. So I decided to invite my sister to go and have lunch with him. They hit it off immediately, and the more they saw each other, the more interested they became in each other. And so, after 6 months of going on dates together, they officially started dating. Shota's currently helping his parents run a restaurant they own. They fell ill a couple of years ago, and that's when he decided to quit his job to help with the family business. But now that his parents are back to their full strength, he's trying to find another job that pays better. I knew that my dad could help him out in this regard, so I immediately reached out to him. My parents were shocked and furious when they found out that Kuzo had been cheating on my sister. They were worried about her well-being for a while, and so when Shota helped her get back on her feet, they grew very fond of him. And because of that, my father immediately decided to let him join his company. Shota and my sister loved each other very much, and because my family supported their relationship, It didn't take long for them to get married. But when Kuzo found out that Shota had gotten a job at my father's company, he called me out of the blue and asked to talk with me. I knew that he was up to no good again, but I didn't want him to bother my sister anymore. So I decided to meet him and see what he had to say. And when I walked into the restaurant where we were supposed to meet, Kuzo was already there waiting for me at one of the tables.
Why didn't you tell me about this?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Well, about Shota, obviously. He got a job at a very prestigious firm, right? And when I looked into the company, I found out that your father is the current CEO of that company. Why didn't you tell me that your sister was the daughter of a big-time CEO? If I had known that, I wouldn't have broken up with her.
God, he's literally the worst, isn't he? My gut was filled with rage once again, and I started to regret agreeing to see him.
But anyway, you have to help me get back together with Miyuki. I can definitely make her happy, and I don't think Shota is the right man for her. And now that I think about it, Miyuki is pretty cute, isn't she? I don't know why I broke up with her to begin with. But anyway, this should be a win-win for all of us, don't you think?
I couldn't believe my ears. What he was saying was so absurd that I instinctively grabbed the cup of water that was on the table and threw it right at him. What the hell are you talking about? You really think you deserve my sister? Is that supposed to be some kind of joke?
What the hell do you think you're doing? It's not a joke. I'm way more attractive than Shota, and Miyuki was in love with me, too. She'd be happier with me.
You think she hasn't moved on already? I don't even think she remembers you at this point. She's madly in love with Shota now, so there is no way that she is going to get back together with you. Now, goodbye. And after saying that, I left the restaurant in a hurry. Kuzo was at a loss for words, and he didn't say anything back to me. I felt much better about myself after doing that. Like I said, my sister is in a healthy relationship with Shota now. They're hosting their wedding in a few months, and my sister is very close with Shota's family as well. Shota is also an excellent employee at my father's company, and he's well respected by all of his coworkers. All things considered, I say that their relationship is almost perfect. And so, there is nothing Kuzo can do at this point to ruin their relationship. But Kuzo is a persistent man and wasn't going to give up easily. He went to Shota a couple of days later and told him to break up with my sister. He insisted that she would be happier with him, but Shota was having none of it. He was never a big fan of Kuzo, especially because he knew how Kuzo had been mistreating my sister while they were dating. And so, he got a few good punches in and warned him to never approach him or my sister ever again. And so, we never saw him again after that. But apparently, Kuzo never gave up on getting back together with my sister. He even quit his job because he was convinced that he could get a job at my father's company. But my sister kept on ignoring him, and he ended up homeless after getting kicked out of his company apartment. He thought that he was going to be able to live out the rest of his life luxuriously, but I guess he was wrong. He doesn't have the means to survive anymore, and because he doesn't have any friends, there's no one he can rely on. I knew that he was going to regret treating my sister like crap one day. It was probably easy for him to manipulate my sister because she had never been in a relationship before. But I'm glad she was able to find someone that is right for her.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.